The Green River, a ribbon of dark water winding through the lush forests of Washington state, seems serene, but beneath its placid surface lurks a dark history. This isn't a story about idyllic picnics and lazy afternoons spent fishing. This is about the chilling reign of a serial killer who turned this picturesque waterway into a watery grave. The victims, young women, most of them runaways or living on the margins of society, their lives tragically cut short. The first body surfaced in the summer of 1982, a young woman discarded in the river, her face bearing the marks of a brutal death. Then another and another, the body count rising with the tide. Panic gripped the Seattle area as fear seeped into everyday life. Who was this monster preying on the most vulnerable? The police were baffled. The killer, dubbed the Green River Killer by the press, was a phantom, moving silently, leaving few clues in his wake. The case grew colder with each passing season, the victims' families clinging to hope, praying for answers that seemed impossible to find. Little did they know, the nightmare was far from over. The killer was just getting started. As the body count climbed, so did the pressure on law enforcement. The Green River Killer became a macabre obsession. His crimes splashed across newspapers nationwide. The victims, though, were more than just headlines. They were daughters, sisters, friends. Each had a story, a life brimming with potential, snuffed out too soon. There was Wendy Lee Caulfield, a bright artistic soul, just 18 when she vanished, and Deborah Lynn Bonner, a young mother desperate to escape a life of hardship. Each victim added another layer to the horror, each disappearance a stark reminder of the killer's depravity. The police worked tirelessly, chasing down leads, interviewing countless potential suspects. But the Green River Killer was always one step ahead, a phantom moving through the shadows, leaving only despair in his wake. Fear choked the community. Parents kept their daughters close, the city holding its breath, waiting for the next gruesome discovery. The Green River Killer's methods were chillingly consistent. He preyed on women on the fringes, luring them with promises of money or drugs. He would then take them to secluded areas near the Green River, where he would commit his heinous acts. The river, once a source of life and recreation, became a watery tomb, its murky depths concealing the killer's gruesome handiwork. The victims were often found nude, their bodies carefully positioned, almost posed. Some were strangled, others asphyxiated. The killer seemed to take a perverse pleasure in degrading his victims, even in death. The level of brutality was shocking, even to seasoned detectives. As the months turned into years, the killer's confidence seemed to grow. He even contacted the police on occasion, taunting them with cryptic clues, reveling in the terror he had unleashed. The Green River Task Force, a dedicated unit formed to catch the killer, found themselves in a frustrating game of cat and mouse, always one step behind their elusive quarry. Amidst the investigation's chaos, one name kept resurfacing: Gary Ridgway. A local truck painter, Ridgway had been questioned in connection with the Green River murders in the early 1980s. He knew some of the victims, and his work often took him near where the bodies were found. But back then, there wasn't enough evidence to link him to the crimes. Ridgway was a quiet man, unremarkable in appearance and demeanor. He lived a seemingly ordinary life with his wife in a modest suburban home. Neighbors described him as friendly, even helpful. Could this unassuming man truly be the monster they were hunting? In 2001, advances in DNA technology provided the break in the case that investigators had been desperately seeking. DNA evidence from several of the victims matched samples taken from Ridgway during his initial questioning years earlier. The pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. Gary Ridgway, the seemingly ordinary man, was the Green River Killer. The Green River Task Force, formed in 1984, was a beacon of hope in a time of immense fear. Comprised of detectives from various agencies, the task force worked tirelessly, dedicating countless hours to sifting through evidence and chasing down leads. Their dedication was unwavering even as the case went cold, the killer's trail growing fainter with each passing year. The task force's work was groundbreaking. They employed innovative investigative techniques using early computer databases to track the vast amounts of information related to the case. Their efforts laid the groundwork for modern-day serial killer investigations, but the Green River case proved to be a formidable opponent. Despite their dedication, the task force faced criticism. Some argued that they focused too heavily on a few suspects, overlooking other possibilities. The investigation's cost, both financially and emotionally, was immense, and yet the killer remained elusive. The task force's story is a testament to the complexities of investigating serial crimes, highlighting the dedication and frustration that often go hand in hand. The news of Ridgway's arrest sent shockwaves through the community. The man who had lived among them, the seemingly harmless neighbor, was a prolific serial killer. For the families of the victims, the arrest brought a mix of emotions, relief, anger, but above all, a yearning for answers. Ridgway, faced with overwhelming evidence, struck a deal to avoid the death penalty. In a chilling confession, he admitted to killing 48 women, providing gruesome details about his crimes. He described his methods, his motivations, and the chilling indifference with which he treated his victims. His confession provided a glimpse into the mind of a monster, but it also brought some closure to the families who had waited for answers for so long. The Green River Killer's reign of terror was finally over, but the scars he left on the community would linger for years to come. Ridgway's confession, while bringing some closure, also ignited a firestorm of controversy. He had avoided the death penalty by agreeing to help locate the remains of his victims. Some hailed the deal as a necessary evil, a way to bring solace to the grieving families. Others argued that it was a betrayal of justice, allowing a monster to escape the ultimate punishment. The debate surrounding the plea deal highlights the complex ethical and moral dilemmas inherent in such cases. Is it ever right to make a deal with a killer, even if it means potentially finding the remains of their victims and bringing closure to their loved ones? Where do we draw the line between justice and expediency? This debate extends beyond the courtroom. Ridgway's crimes exposed the vulnerabilities of women living on the margins of society. Many of his victims were runaways or involved in sex work, their disappearances often overlooked or dismissed. The case sparked a conversation about societal responsibility and the need to protect the most vulnerable among us. What drives a person to commit such horrific acts? In Ridgway's case, the answer is a chilling blend of mundane and monstrous. He wasn't a crazed lunatic, he was a seemingly ordinary man living a double life. He had a job, a wife, and yet beneath the surface lurked a darkness that defied comprehension. Psychiatrists and criminologists have studied Ridgway extensively, attempting to unravel the enigma of his psyche. Some point to a troubled childhood marked by a domineering mother and a strained relationship with women. Others highlight his obsessive-compulsive tendencies and his need for control, which manifested in the most horrific way imaginable. Understanding the motivations of a serial killer like Ridgway is a daunting, perhaps impossible task. His crimes defy rational explanation, leaving us grappling with uncomfortable truths about the human capacity for evil. The Green River Killer case serves as a stark reminder that monsters can lurk in the most unexpected places, hiding in plain sight. In 2003, Gary Ridgway was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentence, while bringing some sense of closure, could never truly erase the pain and suffering he had inflicted. For the families of the victims, the wounds ran deep, the loss of their loved ones a constant ache. The Green River Killer case had a profound impact on the criminal justice system. It led to changes in how law enforcement investigates serial crimes, emphasizing the importance of DNA technology and interagency cooperation. The case also highlighted the need for greater awareness and support for victims of sexual violence and their families. While the sentence brought a sense of finality to the case, questions lingered. Ridgway had confessed to 48 murders, but some believe the true number of his victims may be much higher. The Green River Killer case, though officially closed, continues to cast a long shadow, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. The Green River Killer case left an indelible mark on the Pacific Northwest. The community, once terrorized by the unknown, struggled to come to terms with the horrifying reality of Ridgway's crimes. The families of the victims continued to grieve, their lives forever altered by the loss of their loved ones. In the wake of the case, Numerous books and documentaries explored the investigation, the victims, and the killer himself. These accounts sought to make sense of the senseless, to find meaning in the midst of tragedy. Yet some questions remain unanswered. What drove Ridgway to kill? Were there other victims? The Green River Killer case stands as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of innocence and the enduring power of grief. It also underscores the importance of remembering the victims, not just as names on a list, but as individuals with hopes, dreams, and lives that were tragically cut short. The Green River Killer case continues to spark debate and discussion even years after Ridgway's conviction. One question that haunts many is whether the killings could have been prevented. Some argue that law enforcement missed crucial opportunities to catch Ridgway early on, pointing to missed clues and investigative oversights. Others contend that the nature of Ridgway's crimes, his ability to blend in and target vulnerable women on the fringes of society, made him incredibly difficult to catch. The debate highlights the challenges of preventing serial killers who often operate in the shadows, leaving few traces and exploiting societal blind spots. The Green River Killer case serves as a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. It compels us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own vulnerabilities and the systemic failures that allow such tragedies to occur. Ultimately, the question of whether the Green River killings could have been prevented is a complex one, with no easy answers. It is a question that continues to haunt us, urging us to learn from the past and work towards a future where such horrors are never repeated.